Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live tonight, Patriot Street Fighter. We've got a locked and loaded lineup, as we have in the recent past, with the emergence of sometimes very exciting and other times very confusing turns of events in this battle. The epic battle for Earth, the epic battle for the soul of humanity. This is another one of those emergency broadcast sessions. We have tonight Lewis Herms. We've got Mike Jaco. Josh Reed's on his way in. Alpha Warrior may come in here. Hadn't got any message back from him whether he's going to be here tonight or not. In any case, we got a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into it in a second. I want to let most of you know, some of you know, that we are going to be in Georgia this weekend. This Saturday at 4 p.m. is a tactical civics event. Rob Lane's going to be there. Rob is the composer of the county grand jury song, I think part of the most inspirational message that has driven this movement in the last year. Is going to be there performing. In Vandersteel will be there. I will be there as well. I would have tried to commandeer Mike Jaco to come on up, but unfortunately he moved from Florida over to Nevada. He got out of the hot zone, and but it's going to be a great event. Starts at 4 o'clock. That's at Hoboken Community Center, Hoboken, Georgia. Look for all the details down in the description box. If you're anywhere in the southeastern part of the U.S., come on in. That's going to be a great event, and we're jumping right into it. We've got Lewis Herms, Mike Jaco here for our roundtable. Guys, welcome to tonight's show. Good to have all of you here.
Good to be here.
Good to be here.
There we go. We've got Scott freezing already. Wow.
So I guess we're going to run the show.
I guess.
Our second go around today. Lewis got Mike here, and finally he's in there. We got here's your three amigos tonight, folks, and it's going to be an epic roundtable. So, guys, before we jumped on here live, we got a little distracted because we are consumed now with the emergence of Lewis Herms' candidacy for the governorship of almost said New York, but it's California. It doesn't matter. They're both crazy bowls of soup. They say it's like, a bowl of cereal, a bunch of flakes surrounded by nuts and fruits, however that goes. That's kind of how California is. Don't miss being there, but I'll definitely be coming out there to help you when you throw that hat into the ring. Mike's nearby too. So it's going to be, I think, an epic We the People movement to get behind somebody who's not an inside player, who's willing to call out the scumbags, exactly what they are. And that's easy to do in California. You just shoot in any circular, 360 degrees, you're going to hit one of those targets. Corrupt politicians. But Lewis, you were talking about something to Mike just before, and I said, hold that thought. Let's get this while we're recording. If we can pick up where we left off, then we're going to get into the battle, this white hat plan.
Sure, absolutely. What we're talking about is the fact that there's a lot of work being done in the background right now on my campaign. In fact, our website platform within 10 days, no pressure, Lisa, is going to be absolutely epic when you see what we're releasing and launching. But what I'm doing is in every sector that we're working on, I'm establishing a team of consultants, because I've said many times that I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm very good at working with talent that's smarter than me, and I'm pretty damn good at troubleshooting. So if I hear the ideas, I'm like, oh, well, we need a little solution here, we can go. So in regards to healthcare, the team is incredible. There's a person that's going to help me head the team, and she's bringing some people together. I call her the OG of this movement, and I'll when she's ready, I'll release that name, because I know she'll get attacked heavily. In regards to health, I'm working systems right now that they can't, let's just say cancer alone, have a 3,500% better cure rate than the top oncologists in the country. By the way, this is proven. That this is not semantics. This is not any conspiracy. These are actual clinics that are doing this. I've already toured them. I've met the people in charge, and I'm flying all over the United States putting these teams together. I'm now also meeting with, in regards to health insurance, where immediately we can drop health insurance by 50%, no worries. Plus, they have the codes already set up to do things like naturopath, even an iridologist, chiropractor, Well, those will be included in health insurance as the way they should be. I'm doing the same thing with the election team, the same thing with the anti-human trafficking team, all and over and over. So we're building these teams in the background, and we're going to hit the ground with this. And it's going to be a huge slap in the face to the competitors, because I really, truly believe they have nothing, and they're definitely not putting in the work that our team is going to be. And why do I say our team all the way? Because this is not about me. I'm literally just a conduit. I'm just the guy there that everybody else is holding up. We the people is the team, and it's very, very exciting about what's to come.
That's awesome. There was something that you and Mike were talking about. Property taxes are going to go. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like that move is already being made. Mike, you were referencing something. I think Trump talked about that recently, and I know one of his advisors, close advisors, told a close friend of mine directly that all that's going away. It's unconstitutional. So if one state makes a move for that, it's going to be the opening wave that's going to just kind of roll across the country, state by state by state. Because my belief is the things we're going to see is a slow moving train, with a bunch of box cars loaded with a bunch of goodies in terms of what America will again look like. And I think, on those box cars, on those trains, it says Nasara on the side of all of them. They're just rolling it out slowly as if there's a normal delivery system. That's my guess. But property taxes are a huge one. You think about it, Mike, just the concept. I mean, we grew up in it. It's what it is, and we accept it. We never challenge it. We accept it. But again, we got to come back to the basics. How the hell is it we spend a fortune on real estate, piece of property, whatever it is, house, and then the bankers give you a massive haircut in interest and all of that. You go through that process for 20, 30 years, and now you own the house, and they say, no, you don't. You got to keep renting it. You got to pay your property taxes, or we'll come take it. This is insanity, and I think it's coming to an end. What do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely it's going to come to an end, and taxes are going to come to an end. There'll be some type of taxation, but it'll be some kind of fair tax or something. Another thing that a reason why I believe Lewis has a good shot at winning is the bluest of the blue in L.A. That's the bluest, liberal Democrats in the country just got burned, literally, figuratively, by their government. All right, and they are not happy, and so they're ready for a shift. They're ready for a change, and I think that's gonna. If you come in with the right, ingredients, which I believe you are, they're gonna come run into your campaign. As long as it's not cheated, like it has been for a long time in California, you're gonna win.
Can you imagine what that would do? I said this about Joey Gilbert's election in Nevada in 2022.
Yeah.
If Lewis, if you would win the governorship,
When?
that
Win. Yeah.
entire nation, the whole
When you
nation,
win.
whole landscape. Thanks for the follow up, Mike. Hey, I think Josh Reed was in the house here a second ago. He was there 3 minutes ago.
He's there.
What's up, good people? How we doing?
Are you good? We're strategizing Lewis's acquisition of the governorship in California. He's already painting a big old U-Haul with a Gavin Newsom face on the side with a Ghostbusters cross right through it.
That might actually have a really
Moving
big
van.
impact in California.
That's not bad. Hey guys, real quick, DC is actually calling me. I just need to grab this real quick.
Go ahead. Let us in
All
on
right.
this. Put it on speaker. We want to hear this
Hold
inside
on.
call. So imagine that. Mike, you're right. I think when he starts talking about these things, look, folks, we're gonna provide an option for healthcare. It's 50% of what you pay now, which is a rape job, and natural healing modalities are going to be included. He told me about it, and I know we talked about this together in the past. I don't have the all the mechanics in my mind, but just that alone is epic. We're getting rid of property taxes. My guess is the tariffs they're just coming. They're coming in like a freight train. I'm just guessing that Trump's going to say constitutionally property taxes or illegal, unlawful. They're going away, and you can't leave the counties and everybody in the country who are, utilizing these resources to some degree really for the people. It's got to be a replacement. My guess is tariffs are going to be pushed into the states, local governments, all those kind of things to provide all that, so we don't have to pay for anything.
Well, so I've actually been watching Trump like a hawk on the economic side. Been watching Scott Bessent and Lutnick and all these guys. This is my take on it. So number one is we just heard the other day Trump wants to get rid of property taxes. Today we just found out that the FHFA is moving to get rid of the home sale capital gains tax. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to introduce in the Congress. So what we see is a dwindling away of various different ancillary taxes across the board. Now, Scott Bessent has been very verbal about this, about what he was going to do. There's two things that people need to look into when it comes to fruition. That is the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Now, there's other countries out there that have a sovereign wealth fund, and they are Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates, who basically what they do is they take the minerals from their country and they put it into a big fund. They put that into investments and they pay dividends back to their people. This is why everybody in UAE is driving around in a Lambo and a Ferrari. So we are getting a sovereign wealth fund here in the United States of America. The question is how is it going to be set up? I got a good friend who works at the U.S. Treasury. He was there under the first Trump administration. He's a blockchain developer. So what they're doing right now with companies like Tether, which brings about USDT, which is a stable coin, and other stable coins, is they're going to be offering to these companies 20-year, 30-year, and 50-year gold bond and Bitcoin bonds. Now, if people kind of understand how the bond network works, basically what you're doing is you're securing the U.S. dollar based upon these bondable assets, gold and Bitcoin. Now, if you play it into the larger perspective, you have the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, which is going to play a huge role. Bitcoin in the next 10 years will most likely be over $1 million, easy. And I've kind of laid that out for everybody in my audience. But now you add that into the strategic or the sovereign wealth fund. And this is how I want people to begin to perceive how the sovereign wealth fund is going to operate. There's tariff revenue, which is supposed to get up to about $1.5 to $2 trillion in revenue over the course of the next few years. And that is going to offset the 16th Amendment, the 17th Amendment, the income tax. So now American citizens won't pay a federal income tax. That's going to be offset by tariff revenue. And the objective of Trump over the course of the next few years is to reduce that income tax burden on the middle class by offsetting it with the tariffs. But as you begin drawing money in, this is the other key part that basically nobody out there in the economic world is even paying attention to. Donald Trump secured $10 trillion of investments for the United States from just three countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates, over a 10-year period. Within the country, through SoftBank and other corporations and institutions, he secured about another $3.5 trillion over the next 10 years. So if people can understand that the global GDP, gross domestic product, the entire world is about $200 trillion. And Donald Trump has secured an investment equivalent to about a tenth of that in the United States, just flowing into the United States over the course of the next 10 years. How many jobs is that going to create? How many businesses is that going to create? When we start looking at the big, beautiful bill and what he put in there specifically for what are they called? They're called zoning areas, zoning opportunity areas, right? You have the 12 regional zoning areas that he's going to create, that he's going to allow these corporations to build out on infrastructure, cities, whatever they want to do with it. But why is he doing that? This is the key. He went after the Eastern Donbass in Ukraine. He got the mineral deal there. He went after Congo and Zimbabwe. We're in a conflict, a rebel conflict, civil war. He went after that. Congo is now handing over all mineral rights to Donald Trump, the United States of America, away from China. He's going after Canada as the 51st state. Why? Because he wants Northern Canada. That's why he came out with the Alaska Initiative for creating and promoting jobs, because he wants that Northern Canada area that's rich in natural resources. Why does he want Greenland? Same thing. it goes back that this is all about logistics, resources, and energy, because he who controls those three is going to control the technology infrastructure that's being implemented now, and that's going to control the technology in the next 5 to 10 years, which is AI, quantum computing, and blockchain. So when we start to bring all this together, the resource allocation that he is bringing, he's going to bring into the sovereign wealth fund. Now, here's the big kicker. There's $124 trillion worth of natural resources underneath our feet in the United States of America. And he has just opened up all of that land under the big, beautiful bill to institutions and corporations, of which that will feed back in and benefit the sovereign wealth fund. So I calculated the sovereign wealth fund out for 50 years. What I did is I said, hey, we have I estimated $35 trillion national debt, and how long it would take Donald Trump, with the tariffs that he's imposing right now, to pay that off with a sovereign wealth fund and the level of investments in job creation that's going to come from that. And within 8 years, the national debt will be completely paid off, and every American will be receiving an extra $30,000 a year just from the sovereign wealth fund in 8 years. In the next 16 years, every American will be receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars a month from that sovereign wealth fund in dividends. We'll be at a surplus in government operations, and the complete government will be funded by the sovereign wealth fund. Within 25 years, each American would have a net worth equivalent in the sovereign wealth fund, depending on how they operate it, of over $1 million.
So let me ask you a question on that. So that is all based on the future evolution of the moves that he's made with these trade deals with other countries, importation of different industries, etc. But my guess is there's going to be something that's going to, because people waiting for 8 years, some aren't going to be alive then, 50 years out. It's great for the future. But there's a massive amount of wealth, number one, that's been recaptured and brought back to the United States. We know that. Other countries around the world, also the release of the, you got the dragon families, you got the massive gold reserves around the world, that the dynasties who have been prepared for hundreds and hundreds of years for this time when this planet can basically be recaptured by, let's call it the angelic realm, the evolution of the human species in the angelic form, where these resources now are going to be made for all of humanity. And one of the things, I said this earlier today when I was on with Lewis, there's a form of socialism I totally believe in, and that is planetary socialism, where we take the heads off of all these killers and criminals that have done what they've done to humanity, get rid of them, and take the planet that they've created, a planet of abundance, they've made it a planet of scarcity with everything they do, the theft, everything. Now it becomes basically what God had intended and what it originally was, a planet of abundance. There will be nothing but resources or anything else, evolutionary technology, that can give every human on Earth whatever they can desire. People think, well, that's not good. If they can just get what they want, they'll be lazy. That's BS. That's not the human species, period. That's the matrix evolution of the human species. But I think with all this wealth that they now have reacquired, and they're deconstructing that old system, somebody that's 80 years old, they want relief right now. They want to be part of this right now. Their lives need to be better now. I believe, and I know you guys do too, they have this all gamed out. They know what I just said, and my belief is they're going to make life, in a way that's not too disruptive, especially the senior citizens, to have an easier life with the remaining years that they do have. What do you think of that, Mike and Lewis?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And just like going back to Lewis, we're talking about the corruption. You clean the corruption up like the bullet train. Trump has basically shut down funding for that. Yep. It's that corruption goes away, and the people that benefit from that corruption, the Democrat political elite and their financiers, the billionaires, they're basically going to start to go away, and they won't have that. They won't be there. So you talk about the angelic realm. The dark angels, the fallen ones, that are pretty much have been running the show for a long time. They can't exist in the new vibration that we're creating. Mm-hmm. And I've done this around the world, doing the love vibration that I talk about, and it stops all of the attacks that are happening. So we're basically just raising our consciousness, and that's canceling out all of the corruption that's in there. So Trump shutting down the border, all the human trafficking, child trafficking, Democrat Party, child trafficking party, right? They allowed it to come in and covered it up, and now Trump's in there. It's like he started exposing it before he got into office. He said there's like 300,000 children that are missing, and the Democrats aren't doing anything about it. So he's exposing all that, and people are waking up to it. Like we were just talking about, the deep blue, Democrats in L.A. They're like, well, that's not happening to me. I don't care. And now they get burned, right? And now they're concerned.
Burned out too. Burned and burned out.
So
burned out.
That's changing a lot of people for the last 4 years. We look back on this. We're going to, of course, Trump had to step back so that everybody could see just how corrupt that system is. So the taking down of that system and the wealth that's going to be created from taking down that system, because they steal everything, is going to make everyone wealthy. Everybody. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we're still running the numbers, but I'll just give you kind of a 30,000-foot view. In California, we get rid of the corruption through the parasitic governments and corporations, right? Suddenly, you don't need property tax or sales tax any longer. And there's a lot more wealth that goes to the people. And I'm not even talking about the taxation. I'm talking about the fees and the overcharging and everything else. It's amazing that you just get rid of that alone. And my platform is a lot larger than that, but you get rid of that alone, everybody's living a much better quality of life. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody except the parasites, which is fantastic. And Josh, to your point, you may want to add to your research. There's already been a model of what you're saying that was working phenomenally, including getting rid of the central banking system.
Libya.
But Hillary Clinton killed him, and that was Gaddafi in Libya.
I knew you were going to say that. I'm glad you brought that up. It has to be talked about.
Beautiful model. I've studied a lot about it, and I know that's not your current model, but if you look back to there, it's absolutely incredible what he was doing. And I believe that's why the Clintons took him out, and 2 weeks after he's gone, they were doing trafficking on the streets, literally on the streets.
100%. I don't disagree.
I was there after that, and I can tell you that's true. Everything was magnificent there, and then it just crumbled after he was gone.
Oh my gosh, man.
Yep, and he had a resource-based economy. He brought water back to the desert, bringing it up from the water table all the way up to the surface. Was about to transition completely to a gold-backed currency and do all trade of oil and LNG in gold-backed currency off of the U.S. dollar, and that would have been a domino the deep state did not want to happen and could not afford. Although that's a lot what we've seen the BRICS nations do over the last 4 years. And it's interesting enough that Donald Trump is reversing a lot of that with his policies, bringing the dollar back into the fold of, the petrodollar. But he's doing it at the same time strengthening the dollar with this hard transition of a resource-backed economy. And it's the way that you should do it. I mean, with any type of currency you have, it should be a resource-based economy.
Question then, based on what you just said, Josh, and then whatever you Mike, you think, and Lewis, I'm very likely wrong. I've believed for a couple of years that the U.S. dollar is going away. We've seen renditions of the new U.S. notes is going to replace this. It's a gold-backed system. Does that mean you don't think there will be a transition away from USD, which is a petrodollar, which is a central bank thing, as Lincoln brought greenbacks back, as Kennedy was bringing silverback currency? Are we going to move out of the dollar itself into U.S. notes that's all asset backed, or do we keep the dollar?
Only if the Federal Reserve goes away, because the dollar belongs to the Federal Reserve. They control that. They manipulate that. If the Federal Reserve, which is going to go away, then we'll keep the dollar and we're back to buy gold, I believe.
I think it's actually a means to the end. I mean, just like President Trump is using the White House the way the White House should not be used. He's using it for warfare right now in a specific way to get us back to where we need to get. I mean, if anybody goes and reads the founding papers, they would tell you the president should only be seen for a State of the Union speech, War Powers Act, or national disaster. Pretty much we don't ever need the president involved in anything. He's using the cabal type tactics that have been used before against them. I think that's why, Josh may agree or not, that he's bringing back, making the U.S. dollar powerful temporarily in order to control the direction that we really need to go. And then I do believe the Federal Reserve goes, and then we're back on a a gold-backed, maybe even mineral-backed currency. I'd rather defer to the master, Josh, on this one, though.
So in 1933, this was when we all think that the big coup happened in 1913. The coup actually happened in 1933.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. So and the reason I say that is because the original Federal Reserve was set up with a 20-year charter, right? So it was supposed to expire after 20 years. It's just a trial process. So what did they do? They put us through World War I, and then we come out of that, and they started offering massive loans, or basically throwing money at small family banks at almost 0% interest. And these banks were going out there and trying to give it away, and nobody wanted it. So they had to give it away at almost 0% interest and collateralize those loans with people's family farms. That was the Roaring 20s. Now you go into 29 when they rug pull the entire market, JP Morgan, Carnegie, all these guys. And what do? They suck up all those small family banks and the collateral that they held, which was the farmland. Then they let the farmland sit dormant, and this produced the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. That in 1933, now you have an economic mess throughout the country. You have the end of the 20-year charter, but the U.S. is taking out massive amounts of money, borrowing it from the Federal Reserve, and they owe that to them. The Federal Reserve came out and said, well, hey, you're not canceling our charter, because that was the whole point. They wanted to cancel the charter in 33 under FDR. But they came back and said, no, you have to pay us redeemable in gold for all this, because that's how it was originally written. So this is what brought about a lot of emergency banking powers within 1933. People know as the Emergency Banking Act. One of them was House Joint Resolution 29. And what this did, it was established the Federal Reserve note as well as any other currency Congress deemed as the currency of the United States of America to be traded as U.S. dollars. So what have we seen over the course of the last few weeks? We saw Florida come out there and open up gold and silver as legitimatized currency. We had Texas, gold and silver as legitimized currencies. We got Texas and Florida both working to bring Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as legitimate currencies. So the idea of the dollar in the future is going to be the dollar, but it's going to be something that is a tangible, equal digital format. So you're going to have $1 worth of Bitcoin, which will be equal to 1.2 Satoshis. You'll have $1 equivalent of gold, which will be, 0.012 grams or something, of which you can use any of these currencies, but there will be some type of interoperability model that is built into it to where when you transact that, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, and this makes a lot of sense, Scott, because if I go to 7-Eleven right now with a ruble, right, and I give them that money, they're like, oh, we can't accept this. Well, why is that? Because we don't have the financial infrastructure at the 7-Eleven to convert that money, give the appropriate change, and make sure everybody's making a profit, because you got arbitrage, you got back-end deals going on with Forex currencies. But guess what? With blockchain technology, we absolutely have that technology right now. You can walk in with any foreign currency, pay it at any type of convenience store, grocery store, it doesn't matter. You can do it with cryptocurrency, and immediately it's transacted because there's no bank intermediaries.
It's like doing exactly what people do at an airport. They go to the exchange right there. They take their dollars, get out, British pounds or whatever else. They do the exact same thing when you fly into an airport. You're going to a different country, or they're coming here. Same thing, except now it's instant on demand anywhere on earth, right? That's exactly what you're talking about.
And it's not feed to death like currency exchanges are.
Yep, that too.
So
yeah,
Josh,
it
what you're
eliminates
saying,
the middleman.
So Josh, you're saying, so if Carnegie and Morgan would have actually got on the Titanic, I mean the Olympia, we wouldn't be in this problem today.
Olympia.
Well, if they got on it, it would have never crashed. We know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. Well, our guys should have had a sub out there somewhere.
It's so interesting to look at the significant impact that JP Morgan played in the history of the United States and how drastically different it would be if JP Morgan instead had a heart, had compassion, loved humanity. Because number one, we wouldn't have the Federal Reserve, we wouldn't have the fiat financial banking systems, the central banking cartels, and we'd have Nikola Tesla technology, wireless energy being portrayed all throughout the world right now. We'd probably be 100 to 200 years more advanced than we currently are.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Him and his brother Rockefeller.
Yeah. Yep. It's interesting about these guys. You see these History Channel specials, and you probably saw, some of you guys probably saw this one, and it came out a few years ago. It was titled the Men Who Built America, and they go down through the criminals. Rockefeller, and I didn't think Carnegie was one of them. He obviously was, but you go Carnegie, J.P. Morgan. The two that destroyed Tesla was Edison and J.P. Morgan, because they could not have his technology coming out. And I'm just kind of weaving in our conversation so I can get my hit and run comment in here, let you guys pick it up. Among all of these things, I want our 0-point fork in energy. I want it now. That changes everything. The price of everything goes down 98%. And you can go anywhere on the planet. That kicks into anti-gravitics, kicks it into play. It kicks in sonic healing technology. We don't have to worry about roads anymore, concrete jungles. You can, we got to live somewhere close by here because we got to go to a supermarket, whatever. Anti-gravitics, you can live anywhere on Earth. And then, quickly transport, 450 miles away in like 4 minutes to go to the grocery store. And it gives us access to the entire planet. They want us in this model to keep us confined to the planet. If you take, let's just say something this size here, and then you put a pin on this flat surface, and then you slice that pin into a 1/1,000,000th, and that's the amount of the Earth that we have access to as the human species given to us by our Creator, based on their model. We can't get to the rest of the planet because it's inaccessible. Bullshit. It's not inaccessible. You guys can go there anywhere with your technology. We can't. So it changes the whole game there. And I'm just going to keep weaving this into every show because we need, as a society, a civilization, a nation, to keep saying, where the hell's my 0-point energy? You guys have it above and below. We want ours. Changes everything.
Well, we're getting there, but we still have problems with, like we talked about, LA burning. That was direct-to-injury weapon by, this evil cabal. And then we just had in Kerrville all this flooding, which has killed, massive amounts of people, as we're going to find out. And probably a lot of those girls that are missing were snatched. So they have to be destroyed. I think they're being, pushed into a corner and squeezed quite a bit. But until they're defeated, we're not going to get the energy because they're controlling that. And they're trying to put us in 15-minute cities. They want to vaccinate us. They want to kill us off early. They want to keep us sick. So we have to defeat them. And we're at war with them right now. And is there going to be a World War III? Possibility.
Yeah. General Steve Quast was on the Sean Ryan podcast a few months ago. And he's good friends with Donald Trump. He was an advisor during the first Trump administration. He was actually one of the people that was first headed with Space Force. And he said it, and I can't believe the mainstream media didn't pick up on this, but he said that Einstein was wrong. And we know right now through the Air Force Research Lab that Einstein was wrong. Mm-hmm. And so in order for what we're all talking about and want to happen, you have to get through the institutions and the universities. And this is one of the hard pressings that Donald Trump is doing on them to reconvert them and pull them away from the globalist elites and away from the deep state. One of the key points of research that I did when I discovered the whole Q movement and everything like this was understanding what was in Hillary's classified emails, right? So we all heard about how, the Inspector General in the intelligence community testified in front of the House Intelligence Committee, Chaffetz, the chairman, and he was asked, what was in those emails? And he goes, classified. He goes, what was in those emails? And he goes, classified. He goes, I can't tell you, sir. It's classified. He goes, well, do we have to go to a SCIF? You can tell me there. He goes, even if we did, I can't because they're special access programs. And he goes, these are read in and need to know basis only. So when I heard that in 2016, I started researching this massively because it reiterated with a 4-star admiral in 2010 when I was working in Washington, D.C., who I befriended, started to tell me that there was a lot of things happening in our military and that there was people who were bad actors that were selling U.S. secret technology to foreign adversaries for exchange of book deals, for exchange for speeches and all these things. So I started looking into this, and it was interesting enough. You find out how Hillary Clinton did it with the Horowitz report. I think it's like page 300 of the Horowitz report, where he talks about the home server, and there's a script that runs in the metadata that every time that she replied or forwarded an email from her home server to her State Department email, it would send a blank carbon copy to a Gmail address, which was when they went into the Gmail address, it was all IP logins were offshore of China. And so the question is what emails were those? And that's what the Inspector General, Charles McCullough, was actually looking into. And he couldn't say it outright, but once Trump came in, we find out what was in those emails. And the reason I know that is because let's just use this logically. You have the China initiative that came about with Trump in 2016. This is when he used the State Department to hamper down and reverse all of Obama's educational exchange programs with China and other countries. So what did Trump do? He had the DOJ arrest 34 college professors at 34 different universities. Among them, a name that we all know, Dr. Charles Lieber, who was involved with the Institute of Virology in Wuhan, the Institute of Technology in Wuhan. He was developing the nanotechnology, which is called nanomesh technology. This is where it kind of gets a little crazy for everybody out there, because you're going to hear some things you've heard before, is these nanobots would latch on to something known as your ACE2 receptors in your cells. They would harness the energy, the heat, metabolic and respiratory energy, transfer that heat into electrical energy, and then send a wireless signal out to other nanobots to control them. Now, you might have heard of the ACE2 receptor, because that is the exact same cellular structure in your body that COVID-19 spike protein latched onto and infected the cell, which was, again, nanotechnology. So Charles Lieber was one of many of them. So I go in to research Charles Lieber, and guess what? He's got an NSF, National Science Foundation grant that it's classified. I said, wait a minute. He's working on a SAP program or a USAP. So I go to every single one of the 34 professors, and guess what? Every single one of them had either a DARPA, Department of Energy, Department of Defense, NASA grant that was classified. In other words, and they were working on space-based systems, propulsion systems, energy systems, weapon systems, material systems. And I said, what they were doing was getting the black projects out into the universities, exactly what Bob Lazar said 20, 30 years ago, getting them into the university to reverse engineer them. And then they were Hillary Clinton's emails, which, by the way, Jake Sullivan is the one who gave her access to those top secret emails. She was never even supposed to be on them. What was in those emails? It was the university and professors who were getting the grants for these special access program, reverse engineering within the university. So she sends them to China. China comes in, funds that university, grabs that professor, brings him to China, grabs all of his research through force, coercion, through honeypotting operations, threatens them. Now China gets that advanced technology information and begins developing. This is how they develop their military to rival ours in the last 10 years. So, when we start to look at all of that, the technology exists, it's out there. But when we begin to see what's happening right now is Trump has what I call trickle-down disclosure occurring. You have Michael Krasios, the White House technology advisor, who's formerly Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Development at the Pentagon. He comes out and says that we have the ability to manipulate time and space and move anywhere on this planet instantaneously, where time and distance no longer matter. What? You have Dan Driscoll, our Secretary of the Army, coming out saying that I just talked to an astronaut on the moon who's a soldier. What? This is trickle-down disclosure. So they're bringing it. But you know what, Scott? To answer your question really simply in one sentence, and I know people are like, well, you could have done that 10 minutes ago. But to answer your question really simply, we don't have the global infrastructure. Is if we brought ZPMs out right now, if we brought anti-gravitic technology out there, you're talking 500 years of advancement of infrastructure that has to get put in place. With anti-gravitic technology, we know this from the New Jersey drones. We know this from what Matthew Leifelsberger, the Green Beret that was killed on January 1st, told us, is that they use quantum entangled command and control satellites that actually drive these things. And the thing is we don't have the infrastructure in place. We have a 100-year-old infrastructure in the United States of America that's running our modern technology. You have to upgrade that complete infrastructure system before you can go in there and pop in your ZPN, before you can go in there and have your anti-gravitic vehicles. But that's the beautiful thing, because everything Trump's doing is building that infrastructure. That's the whole idea, is to build that infrastructure within the next 5 years, so that within 10 years, I think 2027, by the way, is really where things are going to change drastically. And that's when the stuff happens in the sky and they all come down and introduce themselves. And Trump negotiated that back in 2020, by the way, when Trump said he was in when he was at Walter Reed and he had COVID. We got it from a good contact that he was actually in Antarctica meeting with 3 extraterrestrial races, and that he was going to expose that.
That's interesting. Somebody else told me recently, hey, Couche, told me recently that they back in maybe it was 2016, Couche, they refused to talk to him. And I don't know why. Maybe we weren't in a position yet where it would make a difference or make sense. But in the meantime, what we need to do, in my opinion, as a podcast medium, continue the ball kicking, keep hitting them in the balls on this, because what, when it's not just us and it's the common population. Come on, man, where is it? Build it faster. You have all the money. We just keep pushing them. Come on, you need to build this faster. We're ready to go. If it doesn't hit the public in terms of their consciousness, this thing could take much longer. But if we all are we're spreading this constant awareness on this one issue, 0 point energy, free energy, and people begin demanding it, everything moves faster.
Yep. And I'll get
Yeah,
into
the
zero.
Middle East, they made a huge leap. They didn't even have telephone poles and all that kind of stuff for telephones, and then they made the leap right to cell phones. So we can make those leaps, but the infrastructure that's there is going to keep us moving slower.
Yeah,
Because remember, all the people are like, I'm never going to use the internet. But now everybody's using the internet, but because the people that said they're never going to use the internet, they drug things through. And then, of course, we were pushing, don't get the COVID shot. How many people got the COVID shot? 80%. So you're going to have a lot of people do dumb shit. And if you bring in great technology, they're like, I like what I got. I'm cool. It's like, it's going to be, it's one of those things.
So I'll hit on a couple of these things. After my head had to unexplode after Josh was explaining everything.
I went on an artistic rant. I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was, in fact, I think anybody watching should just clip that segment out, and that should go viral. First thing is, the one person that knew Einstein was wrong was Einstein, by the way, because he knew he was wrong. He had trouble admitting it, but of course, everybody knows when he was asked who the smartest person was, he goes, "Don't ask me, ask Nikola Tesla." So
Really?
Yeah, and that's a quote from Einstein. He says, "How does it feel to be the smartest person in the world?" He goes, "I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask Nikola Tesla about that." So he knew who the smartest guy was, and that's why they demonized Nikola Tesla, because he was for we the people. Now, it's interesting you mentioned that series, Scott. I was brainwashed enough to buy the DVD set of that series because I thought it was so cool. And
it was good. It was good.
It was well done, and then you buy into it and you think these are heroes, but they're actually zeros. In what y'all are saying is this whole movement is a movement of acclamation. And I know people have been hearing me say this forever, but it's like beating a dead horse. But the reality is we got here with a frog in the pot. They slowly turned up the heat on us until we didn't even know that we were boiling. In order to reverse it, I think it's the same thing. Slowly, like Josh says, drip, 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 reacclimating to us. Now, Scott, you'll be happy to know in regards to that, I actually have an actual process and a plan with my platform to get us to 0 point energy. And 0 point energy is the ultimate in sovereignty. When we have 0 point energy, there is no more control whatsoever, because we are free to do what we want, when we want, how we want. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So how do we get there, though? We're not ready for it. We know the infrastructure is not ready for it. So I have a platform. In fact, this is how blessed we are with this campaign. I happened to be in a city over the weekend. Somebody walked up to me. He goes, "I need to meet you. I've dropped everything. I was called that I need to meet you." Neither was we're in California. He says, "I'm from California." He goes, "I'm the premier guy when it comes to alternative energy uses." Man, I thought he was going to get windmills and so on and so forth, blah, 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 blah. No. This guy knows the good stuff, the big stuff. And he blew me away with his knowledge. And I asked, and I said, "I'm looking at this process right now that's going to get us to 0 point energy. What do you think about it?" He goes, "It's brilliant. Let me tell you all about it." So this is somebody that's going to be on my team in order to transition us to 0 point energy. The reality, though, it's going to take a decade or more to get there. But if we can give you something in the meantime that can reduce your bill by 50 to 80%, that gives you a lot more freedom. And that's what we're working on right now. And this will help, again, transition and acclimate us to this phase.
Now, I think people are going to get scared when I say this, because Trump's executive order, the last executive orders freeing up nuclear energy, this actually does a lot of this, because one thing that we're going to see in the next 5 years are modular thorium nuclear reactors.
Okay, you just gave it away, Josh. I was trying to hold this until I released my platform, but it's the
Got an
abbreviation.
infiltrator here, Lewis.
I
Already,
know.
you
What
got
is he
an
doing?
infiltrator.
The abbreviation could be SMR, and you know
He
exactly what
didn't
I'm
sign
talking
the
about.
NDA, so well.
Right. So this is some of the stuff that we're working on is SMR technology, which can be done right now, and it can be done underground without any hazard to the environment. And I'm not going to go into the details of how it can be accomplished, because that would be dumb. That's like giving away my game plan. But I can tell you that would be one of the couple things that we would use to transition us to a zero point energy. And you're dead on.
Yeah,
Make a
there's
comment on
helium-3 from
that.
the moon. Oh, go ahead, Scott. Sorry.
We talk about how quickly infrastructure can go up. I don't know of a better, more unbelievable example of a lockdown in COVID in 6 months, literally, when we could actually get out of our houses. I mean, I never stopped, but even though I never stopped moving, all of a sudden one day I'm like, where the hell did all these 5G towers come from? I didn't see anybody out here ever building these things. They exploded like it's like chia pets, a little bit of watering, and next thing you know, 2 days later, it's overrunning your house. You talk about building infrastructure. If that doesn't prove how quickly they can get shit done, if they have the money and the capacity, nothing does. Because I never noticed these things. And I didn't notice them because we were talking about 5G radiation attacks. We weren't there yet. We didn't understand what was going on yet. But all of a sudden, you just passively notice, like, holy shit, these things are everywhere in places you'd never expect them. So,
like around schools and religious institutions, yeah, a lot of them. That's where
in
they
the
go.
backyard, quite literally.
backyard, in your backyard.
Yeah, the modular nuclear reactor is interesting, and one of the other things is you have thorium, and then you have helium-3, which is being mined on the moon right now, and it is in massive quantity on the moon. And those could be so short interim supplementaries that we could see over the next 10 to 20 years while the infrastructure and everything comes out. I don't know, people know that I dabble in physics. I went to school for physics at UC Boulder, University of Colorado Boulder. I've been developing a whole theoretical model, unified field theory, for the last 15 years. And I call it optimization theory. And the reason is because when we look at what's happening, if we want to truly understand it, we have to go back to the ideas of Nikola Tesla. We have to go back to the ideas of what's called a rarefied ether, or something that is an intermediary for how everything happens. And once you start to implement that into the modern scientific construct, everything begins to make sense, and you can resolve so many of the contradictions and ad hoc models that they've created. But that's one of the biggest problems in today's modern world, is that you have a controlled institution, and it's heavily redacted and controlled. And so you have to bring down those walls and barriers before you can even begin to develop, get the research out, and then from the research develop technology, which typically on the commercialization side takes 5 to 10 years to develop. So we're seeing the veil being lifted among that from Trump. I mean, we're moving all the regulations, all the policies, we're releasing all this information, and I think that once people truly see what's happening, we're going to have a decade of innovation, and it is going to be remembered for countless millennia to come.
Josh, got a great idea for you. I do want to switch gears here for a second to kind of align with the title of the show tonight. I have a comment and then sort of a view. Number one, with all this shit, why isn't the top of your head pointed? I can't figure that out. Number two, look, if we want to get infrastructure like really quickly, all we need to do is go strip all of that from underground cities and tunnels all over the planet, put them up on top of the earth. We're good to go.
True. Yeah.
My thoughts. There you go. I mean, if we're thinking this together, guess what? There's a unified field already out there. Have already planned in their own minds. Quantum entanglement. That's where they're going to bring it all above ground, and then we got it. Here's some things we were talking about today. Two things. Trump, number one, we look at this dynamic of Elon becoming oppositional to Trump. And then, of course, attacking him. And then the Epstein thing comes up. None of these things happen by accident. All these things are part of the plan. Why does Epstein come up in the ethers now? And then, of course, Elon's moved away from Trump, attacking Trump. The reason the files aren't coming out is because Trump's in there. And then, we got Bondi, Cash Patel, Bongino, and now there's all this dissension coming up. They're now looking like they're playing for the other side. I won't even mention the person on X that put this out. I told you, all you people thought this was going to happen, this, and it didn't. Well, now what you're seeing with Patel, Bondi, Bongino, Trump doesn't expose anybody. He puts them in positions of power to expose themselves. I can't make a judgment on who these people really are. Let's back to the white hat, black hat thing. Are they white hats? Are they black hats? Is this a reveal, or is it a direction of political narrative to seed the consciousness here? Number one, and number two is, what does it look like the game plan that Trump and the military have deployed using these kind of tactics? Is it to bring things back into the consciousness? People are pissed off because all of a sudden Trump's like, well, let's just move on from the Epstein thing. My theory is, and this came out of a conversation I think today with you, Lewis, or somebody else, but my theory is, again, just like the whole being able to dig into the tax records of a U.S. president, right? Trump fought it the whole way to the Supreme Court. He had nothing to hide, period. Military intelligence vetted this guy before they ever put him in the role. He was bulletproof, squeaky clean. They had nothing on this guy because he's been clean pretty much all of his life for this time. So now that they let them and they just kept baiting him in, they took it clear to the Supreme Court, right? And the corrupt Supreme Court says, yes, you can look at his, his former tax records. What did that do? It set the stage for now that weapon to be turned on these scumbags to go after every congressman, every senator, get into their tax record, clean house. My guess is this is kind of similar with what Trump's doing. Trump doesn't want the Epstein list to come out because he's in there. Now, let's say he is or he isn't. So they continue to push us off to the side, piss off the country, all the people we want to see, heads removed from shoulders here. Now we're just going to move on. So what happens? The Democrats are like, bullshit. We want the people that would never want the Epstein list out there. We want that Epstein list. And they're just going to go nuts and keep hammering away, because Trump's in there. And what happens? Then they go down, they start revealing it all. There's no Trump anywhere. But it outed every one of these scumbags, with the Democrats kind of like in support. Same fashion with Jeff Sessions. Same fashion. Jeff Sessions recused himself, so Rosenstein takes over. The whole Russia collusion thing. Trump's pissed, attacking Jeff Sessions. We know was all theater because they didn't want. And who threatened Trump with removal of Sessions? They hate Sessions. They've all. Hated forever.
There you go.
Now all of a sudden you've got the Hollywood left lunatics. You have the Democrats and everybody on their side threatening Trump. If you remove Sessions, then we are going to impeach you. Why? They hate people like Sessions. The reason they didn't want that to happen, because they knew the new AG would come in and they would go right into the Russia. They'd take back the Russia collusion investigation of Rosenstein, a criminal crook, traitor, and then they're screwed. But you just watch these people. Watch him circle the wagons around and try to protect Jeff Sessions. These are the things that I found remarkable in their plan. I mean, they know human behavior and sociology better than anybody. They know it as well as the cabal does. I think they're using those weapons against them. And those are two examples of how that worked. What's happening here with this whole Elon Musk, Trump DJTs in the files? Trump's like, let's move on. People are pissed at Bondi, Bongino, and Cash. What do you think's playing out here?
The art of the war.
Great job. Okay, next question.
Let me add to that.
That sums it right up.
Yeah, it really does, right? So that's what's going on. But you know what? I think there's another facet here I find interesting. People are very upset with me on X right now because I'm telling everybody that if Trump is the man I think he is, he understands that the ultimate goal is for we, the people, to run things. not a higher position. Therefore, he's challenging us to say, hey, love you, man, but no, we're not going to put up with that. We are here to save the kids. We need to see prosecutions in regards to this. I believe he's testing and challenging
Could be.
his supporters to say, dude, no, not on this one. We must have prosecutions here. So people are like, oh, how dare you do that, Lewis? No, I believe that's exactly what he's looking for, because if we do not claim our personal sovereignty first, forget about the paperwork, just our personal sovereignty first. If we don't claim that, and if we don't stand up and say, yo, brother, you work for us, we're in the same exact place, whether he comes in on his white shiny horse and saves us or not. When we say, hey, we the people take accountability, and guys, you work for us, that's it. When we get over that hump as a whole, and I believe he'll give us a big thumbs up for pushing back in a nice way. Like, dude, Mr. President, I completely support you, but not on this issue. We absolutely must take care of the kids and have full disclosure after prosecutions, by the way. And that's where I think a lot of people are missing the boats. They all want the names. Dude, you don't want the names until they're prosecuted, or they're just going to run into the dumbs and for the hills.
It's the same thing that happened with the COVID warp speed vaccination program. Basically put it on us to see the corruption that was going on with that program. And we're seeing the same thing with, Epstein, P. Diddy, you name the different ones. There's so many out there. So everybody, demands justice right now. But if you don't take care of other things first, then you're not going to get justice ever. The judicial system has to be taken down. We saw that with P. Diddy in Manhattan, the worst, most corrupt, judicial system in the country. And, he got off on 3 counts, major counts. There's so much information there that could have been released, and they didn't do it. And so it's the same thing we went through the last 4 years, exposure, seeing, the corruption, laying it out there, letting everybody see, what it is, getting the narrative out there. So like you talked about, Scott, now the Democrats are demanding it. So, and they have to, because if everyone's not demanding it, of course, I think the Democrats are the worst ones as far as that stuff. And I think we're going to find that out. That's another thing. So if they push this and release those lists, we're going to do away with Congress, and we're going to do away with the Senate, and we're not going to get anything done. Let's get some stuff done and then expose that list. I think that's where we're at right now.
Let me jump
following up on what I'll say one thing, following up what you just said, Mike. And here's the thing, folks, you got to remember, correct me, Mike, if I'm wrong, but we know Diddy is guilty of all this shit because we've seen enough information, testimony, whatever.
Epstein
now.
2.0.
Yeah, and so here's a reality. People think, oh, this is a dead stick now. No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
It's the intelligence agencies, and don't think for a moment.
Did you hear what I said when I froze, or I froze for a second?
We didn't. We locked you after dead stick.
Okay, my point was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, double jeopardy doesn't apply with military tribunals or treason. He can be tried again by the military in a tribunal for treason for this shit. He might get off in their corrupt admiralty system. And people say you can't try him again. It's double jeopardy. Not when it's a military tribunal system. Am I right?
That's right. And we're at war right now. So
yeah. War. Well, I have a theory on this. And I was exposing Diddy in connection to Burkle. That whole series I did went very viral. I know, Scott, you and I talked about that in length here. I have a theory on this. Diddy already went through a tribunal before the FBI picked him up.
Interesting.
And here's why I say that. Because I think this is more about disclosure. And I said this on day one. When the FBI picked him up, where did he go? He went to the Southern District of New York, where things go to die. Who they appoint as the prosecutor? Comey's daughter. So to me, it was strike 1, strike 2, strike 3 in that order. And I was the one, I was saying out there, guys, this is going to end up being a nothing burger. Don't get upset at the end. This is where things go to die. It's intentional. I believe that he probably already went through a tribunal, and this is the show horse that they had to show in order to wake us up.
The pantomime.
Yep.
Yep.
because
You did
There
say
you
that.
go.
We talked about this a long time ago, and you did say that, and I agree with you completely.
Interesting.
I said
So-
it right after we got snatched up. I said, this is what we're looking at.
So this is where this I love the setup there, Lewis, because this makes this so much more impactful of what I'm about to say. So what if you knew something was
Like
coming?
nothing you say is not impactful, Josh. Come on.
Finally, Josh, we've been waiting for something in
Make a point.
It's
Yeah,
all the
make a
light,
good
camera, action.
make a good point for Christ's sakes already.
So what if you knew something enormous was coming, something huge, something bigger than you could ever imagine? That if you did this, if you allowed if you're the president and your DOJ did this, you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be criticized. No one's going to believe you. They're going to believe that you're abusing your power, seizing your power. Even regular day average Americans, the left, the moderates, are all going to turn on you, even probably your own base, if you did this. Let's say that this thing is the arrest of a former presidential administration, Obama, Biden, you have Clinton, Brennan, Comey, Jake Sullivan, all of these figures, that you're going to take them all down. But you can't do that right now. The country would turn on you. They'd be like, what the hell is going on? Donald Trump is weaponizing the DOJ against all these people. What did poor Barry do, right? Because here's the thing. Unlike us in the audience out here, Democrats, moderates, liberals, independents, normies, they haven't spent countless hours researching this stuff. They don't know what we know.
Yep.
That's the thing we have to understand. So how do you bring the people to the precipice? Well, look what we just saw over the course of the last few weeks. Elon Musk comes out with this Fox feud with Donald Trump, right? Scott Pruitt gives him a nice punch in the eye, and he comes out and says, Trump's on Epstein's list. That's why they're not releasing it. The media goes crazy. Well, what happened on the day that the FBI memo came out? Elon comes out and says Steve Bannon is on Epstein's list. Now, who are the two most persecuted people in Trump's former administration? Trump and Bannon. Now, did anybody here know that in 2018, the summer of 2018, Steve Bannon filmed a 15-hour-long documentary with Jeffrey Epstein at Jeffrey Epstein's house in his vault, and the footage has never been released by court order? Now, let me ask you this. Steve Bannon left in just the end of 2017, right before he went and spent 6 months with Jeffrey Epstein. He left the Trump administration and then goes and spends 6 months with Jeffrey Epstein, and then the next year, Jeffrey Epstein is arrested. Wait a minute here. Let's follow this out for a second. Has anybody ever heard of 18 USC 3521?
Of course, we all have.
WITSEC, right? So what happens when you have a high-profile witness that you want to get out and testify later on? Remember the rumors from the former mob informant that said that Bill Barr visited Jeffrey Epstein the day of his death in jail? What was Bill Barr doing there? He was signing the deal. What was the 15 hours of testimony with Bannon? It was 15 hours of confessional testimony, putting out the names, connecting the dots, giving that information over the Donald Trump, the Trump card.
So they got all this before they picked him up at Teterboro Airport.
Exactly what just happened with Diddy.
Holy shit,
they
man.
got him before that, and then his death is not a death. It's witness in 18 USC 3521. You can fake the death of an individual. It's legally authorized through the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. So they pull Epstein out. They probably got him somewhere. Now, let me ask you this, because this is where it begins to make so much more sense. If Donald Trump's Trump card is compromised, is the compromise of Wiener's laptop, is the compromise of Epstein files, which the Epstein files span 3 decades, include former and current heads of state all over the world, power brokers, UN, globalist elites. I mean, everybody's implicated. If Donald Trump held that, how easy is it now for him to renegotiate the world of trade deals? What did he do on the exact day that the FBI memo came out? He sent out the trade deals to all these heads of state, right? He wore a yellow tie at the press conference when he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Why are we talking about Jeffrey Epstein? What? Pam, do you even want to answer this? He's wearing a yellow tie. In maritime law or maritime organization, yellow flag is the Q flag, Quebec flag, which means that my ship, when I'm coming in the port, is free from disease. In other words, Donald Trump was signaling to us, because right after this, he says the media has declined 17% in their ratings. He's hinting towards us. Q tie, the Q tie that he's wearing. What is he hinting towards us? I'm not compromised. I'm not under duress. There's hidden meaning here. 17. Look at it. Think about it. And what he's trying to show us is that he's using the Epstein files to renegotiate trade deals around the world, to control various actors. Now, this is where I'm going to say this, and you guys can agree or disagree, and I think that I'm spot on with this. Thomas Crooks, who tried to assassinate Donald Trump at Butler, PA, had 2 foreign entities on his phone. One we heard was Iran. The other we know was Israel. Why would Israel have tried to run that up? The reason Israel tried to run that up is because Donald Trump had the Epstein files. He had the compromise, which implicates Netanyahu. It implicates Shin Bet. It implicates the Mossad, the MI6. It implicates all of these, what I call the global intelligence apparatus, all of the intelligence agencies. It implicates them on treason against the United States of America, against their own countries. And Donald Trump held the door, so they tried to take him out, and they missed. So what do you see right next is Israel bowing down to Donald Trump when they realized they couldn't stop him. And this is why we saw with that whole Iran debacle that we talked about a few weeks ago, that Netanyahu is working for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not working for Netanyahu. Netanyahu and Israel are under the power and control of Donald J. Trump, as with Saudi Arabia, as with so many other countries in this world. And he's using the compromise as high-level leverage. And Michael will tell you, if you have compromising material on someone in intelligence, it is more valuable and more powerful unreleased than it is released.
Yep.
It's weaponized. And that's what we are seeing right now.
I can actually give you an antidote of that. But Mike, I'll let you talk first because I know this is more of your expertise.
Yeah, so basically what we're seeing right now, we're seeing the military maneuver is going to start to happen pretty soon here. So Donald Trump today was pretty much in the White House getting briefed on what's coming. If I watched Monkey Works earlier, because I'm feeling this, I'm like, something's really, really, in the works because everything's too quiet. I've been in this situation many times. So, and Monkey Works is showing how everything's starting to move, getting ready for something big, guys. So I think we're going to see some serious military maneuvers, and it's because Trump controls everything, and they don't like it, and they're trying to take that away from him. $40 million hit on Trump right now from Iran. They just put it out. So what do you think is going to happen to Iran? He's going to blow the hell out of them, right? I said this a while ago. It's not done yet. Those B-2 bombers, that was the beginning strike.
Well, and we got 2 factions in Iran, right?
Yeah,
Iran's in the middle of a coup.
Exactly.
Iran's in the
one
middle of a
that's
coup.
not working it needs a little help, evidently.
The clergy and the mullahs and the Ayatollah Khamenei or whoever they got in his place versus the IRGC and President Pezeshkian, who are the ones negotiating with Trump.
Right.
And called the ceasefire. That's why when the ceasefire was called, Iran's like, we didn't do a ceasefire. What are you talking about? And then 5 minutes later, they're like, yeah, we did. It's all good. Because there's 2 factions fighting for power and control in Iran right now. And there's been military operations internally happening in Iran. And, Donald Trump said something interesting, Mike, on his Truth Social after all of that. He said that we just destroyed the largest nuclear weapon ever created. What? Firstly, Iran only had enough uranium to build about 9-10 megaton bombs. In other words, what we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I mean, this isn't the Tsar bomb from Russia, which is the largest nuclear bomb ever made. So what's he talking about there? From what we got in Ashton Forbes was on top of this, he was talking about plasma-directed energy weapons. But we know China, the Mohan China jumbo jet were flying in. They're sanctioned by the U.S. We're flying into Iran after this. And I said that I got it from good people in intelligence that they were coming in and grabbing the uranium and the materials and take them out of Iran. In other words, China was helping Iran develop a weapon. Now, what was it? It was a plasma bomb, which a plasma bomb will do just as much damage as a tactical nuke, except there's no radiation. But it also brings a higher impactful EMP along with it. And it incinerates anything in its path. And this is what we think that Iran was actually building, they were building it along with China, because how does China weaponize something like that? Well, they can weaponize it through proxy, like Iran, in the Middle East to control that whole area, right? So it's a crazy time to be alive, and I agree, Mike. I don't think that the military stuff is off the list. I think that we're ramping right now for potential conflict.
That would be like us during dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So they were like, that changed the world.
Yep.
So if they were to drop a plasma bomb, then everyone else would have to go, whoops, right? You guys are in charge.
Yeah, so, it makes everything else for the warfighter obsolete.
Right.
So I think oh, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
I was going to say, this isn't a curveball, but somebody just brought this up in the chat, and they mentioned, I was on with Dave Scarlett and SG and Juan about 10 days ago, roughly. And Dave Scarlett said, the Ayatollah's in a box. Later on in the show, I said, my belief is that regime's been dealt with. My belief is they're taken out already. And now the maneuvering's happening similar to what you had just said, Josh. I didn't see it from that point of view because I never considered it. But, and then Dave, when I brought that up later on, Dave said, well, Scott, what I meant by what he got from 2 active duty generals is that the Ayatollah's in a box. He said literally in a coffin in the ground. I'm like, whoa, okay. That changes everything. You see that factoring in here in what you just said? That internal battle.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting, Scott, because he took 2 weeks to make his first public appearance. And here's the question is, I can't decipher if that was AI or not that we saw him on television.
That's what I was going to say. It had to be. Look, if he's gone, it's absolute. Like
I think it happened.
Yeah. The day of, I got some really good reports that multiple clerics, including him, were taken out.
Yep.
The day of, and it was pre-planned, and even Trump told him ahead of time to the IGRC that this is what we're going to do, and they gave him a thumbs up. So that's what I kind of heard. Now, in regards to Mike, what you're saying about even people working for us are compromised. I had a phone call. So something happened in a certain state in regards to an election in a GOP that I happened to be, wouldn't say intimately involved in, but at least Copus knew the players of what's going on and saw it for what it was. And there was a guy that was going to be president of GOP that was so we the people, it was just beautiful. He had all the votes, it was lined up. And then at the 11th hour, people that are working with Trump came in and they said, oh, Trump just endorsed so-and-so. And everybody needs to put their money behind, their vote behind them. Sure enough, that person that Trump endorsed got in as the president of this certain GOP. So what happened is I knew somebody in the Trump administration. So I texted them, as sometimes I can do, and I lit them up. I said, are you guys in your effing crystal palaces, calling the shot from on high, blah, 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 blah. What the hell is this? We finally have a We the People guy, and you torch it, you tank it. I was losing my shit. I just got to be honest with you. That's what was happening. No response for 3 days. And this person always gets back to me, usually right away. 3 days later, he calls me. And he was I think he's waiting to see if I was calmed down. He's like, he heard me out, and he said, let me tell you what's at play. He says, right now, because we are in a war, right? Sometimes it's better to have somebody that is compromised, somebody that we have information on, because they know they will go lockstep in the direction of what we have. And he said, we the people guy like you, Lewis, is the future. But right now, that may not help with this plan because you won't follow what we need to be followed. And I said, okay, I had it explained to me deeper. And I said, you know what? I don't like it, but I understand from a warfare tactics. I get it. And then I did some research and looked at another state that the exact thing was going on. And this person is actually in Congress and is a huge supporter, lockstep with everything President Trump is doing. I had the same information on that person. So it really adds up and makes sense, Mike, what you were saying about this.
Yeah, if the guy's dead, then I would say that the former the mullahs are out, and maybe the other guy that comes in, who's the palace guy, whatever, what's his name?
Pezeshkian, you have the president Pezeshkian, and in the way that Iranian government works is kind of interesting. You have the Iranian army, which works for the parliament. You have the IRGC, which works for the clergy. Then you have the president, and then you have the mullahs and the clergy up here. And what we heard was cooed was the clergy and the mullahs, that their power has been removed, but they're still there and have certain factions of power. And it was the IRGC internally that is forming that coup on them, and they're trying to fight it off, but they're losing horribly because there's still IRGC hardliners that are with the clergy and the mullahs.
Well, you know who they need, and this is going to be a surprise to people. I was just telling somebody about this that I know is from Iran. They need, as happened before, they need the students to step up and support, because the students have so much gravitas when they are running these public things and pushing back against the government. I know they got beat down and shut down before, but this would be the perfect time for the students in Iran to do it, because they really got traction before. Now I think this time could put them over the top.
Yeah, now they got a guy that can help deliver their victory.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think we're going to see that grassroots social revolution in Iran play out over the next year.
Mike?
Yeah, I think that Pahlavi, that's who I was trying to think of. I think if he comes back in, he's even said, I will be the transition. And I think he would bring in a lot of, the world. Because like we were talking about, the students just did it. They're not going to get any recognition, I don't think. The people, if they do it. So there's I've heard a lot of people talking, they've been on different talk shows, and they're like, the people need to take over. And I've been in the Middle East. It's not going to get any recognition. So you need someone to make that transition. Now, a lot of people are scared that this guy's going to come in and he's just going to, do the old Shah, control system and he's going to get puppeted by, MI6 and CIA and all that kind of stuff like the last one was. I don't see that. But, that's where the people decide too. So that's when, like we're talking about, the students revolted. And I think that with this guy, they can start to have free and fair elections and really make things go in the right direction. But the fact that it hasn't happened yet, and I felt that if it's a long period of time, like we've seen, and it doesn't happen, it's not a good sign.
Last question, guys. We can go for a little while on this, but how does this factor in to that drop we're all waiting for, saving Israel for last? What is that shaping up like now?
I think Israel and America are one and the same. So the save for last is basically clean out the corrupt side. I think the corruption is going to be cleaned out in America, is being cleaned out. And once it is, then Israel gets cleaned out. So I think Israel and America are the same. And that's going to be very interesting, I think, going forward. So when we had the tribes of Israel, basically, Babylonian king came in and took over, and they scattered. I think a lot of them came to America. And
well, they're saying multiple sources have said from extensive research, and you've had her on recently as well, Mike, is Sheila Holm, that the lost tribes of Israel are the native tribes of the United States.
Right.
That's why they had to decimate them, because they were put here because they were going to live in this realm of Gaia, the connection, angelic connection with Mother Gaia, and be able to create in their own sense this Eden. And then they had to turn. They brought them in here, and they had to. Why would you just wipe out these beautiful people? Call them savages. Hell, I remember playing cowboys and Indians. I didn't realize I was an Indian. I was pretending I was a cowboy shooting my cousins right over here in the hill. And but then you learn about what they could have contributed to the Europeaners coming in here and created basically a utopia. Yet on the other hand, they're slaughtering them, giving them disease blankets. I mean, how do you murder 20 or 30 million buffalo? I mean, for what reason? Obviously, to take out their food supply. The gravity of the annihilation of anything good in this country started back then. President, military, etc. It's a travesty that we never talk about. We talk about genocide around the world, and I've heard this many times. Black America, Democrats, we need reparations for Black America. I'm like, absolutely, I'm all for that. Right after we rectify the worst and what happened to Native Americans, land stolen, cultures destroyed, some completely wiped out. Okay, let's take care of that first. Then we'll have the conversation.
Yep.
Right? Trail of Tears was, I'm probably lucky to be alive coming from the Cherokee Nation. Lucky we're here. They damn near took out all of them just in this horrific travesty there. You guys pick up on the next question or two. I think I'm questioning.
I got to roll here in a minute, but I wanted to just comment on Save Israel for Last. I think that we're seeing it. And what I think is that we have to define that. What does that really mean, right? Saving Israel for last. And I think what it means is that we remove the Samson option. Number one is we remove Israel's coercive force blackmail from the Western world, which is 180 nukes pointed at us, right? Mm-hmm. So that's number one. Number two is you remove the deep state intelligence apparatus from Israel, which would be parts of the Mossad, parts of Shin Bet that are integrated within this deep state apparatus. You remove the political deep state, and that I believe that does include Netanyahu, freeing up all of that. And so I think that's what it means by saving Israel for last is kind of removing all of those parts. The same thing that, like we're saying, the same thing that's in the United States. There's one and the same, and we have to uproot the deep state here in the United States and get rid of that. Look how long that's taken. That's a decade, right? Mm-hmm. You know, so you have to do the same thing that we're doing here there. And I think that it's been in progress for a while. And I think that with Donald Trump having the keystone, the Epstein files, the keystone that brings everything together. You got to remember, the Epstein files, they tie in, let me see, WikiLeaks emails, they tie in the 2016 election corruption, they tie in COVID-19, they tie in the 2020 election. It brings everything together because all of those players and actors are directly affiliated with all of this. So I think that with Trump having that as his trump card and kind of letting the world know by basically saying, hey, we're not releasing this. It's a nothing burger. There's nothing here. He's telling the global elite, he's telling world leaders, I got this information, you son of a bitches. And so when I come knocking on your door, you better answer and you're going to do some deals with me. That's what the message he's sending in private. And I think that is going to completely revolutionize the ability for Trump to renegotiate the world, especially.
I'll tell you what, I believe that Israel will go fast. Like you said, it's taken 10 years to get rid of the deep state here. You get rid of the deep state here, you just took care of 80% of the deep state in Israel.
Agreed.
Yep.
20% is left.
What we're seeing is a Trojan horse operation. You know, some of you have already heard me say this. So I call it the Trump's Trojan horse. And in regards to this, is you have the construct of the Zionist Khazarian mafia factions, right? Which is what is propped up Israel and the United States for several decades. Most people know that story. So how does President Trump take down the Khazarian mafia, the Israel faction of that, and the Zionists? How does he do that? He has to cozy up to them as close as he possibly can. He has to put Zionists into his cabinet. He has to act as if he is aligned with Israel in lockstep, because what can they do? They always throw out the anti-Semite. So if he pretends publicly that he is so tight, and if you look at the rhetoric, he looks tighter with Israel than virtually any president in the past. I mean, he's just so lockstep. But what is he doing while he's tight with them? He's cutting their legs off. He's removing their foundation. They're going to dismantle Big Pharma, which is the whole Zionist Khazarian mafia controlled remnant. Dismantling the central banking system, which is the Zionist controlled Khazarian Rothschild controlled mechanism. Dismantling the media as we know it, revamping the military industrial complex into something completely different, revamping technology into something completely different. What is he doing? He's completely destroying their foundation, so they're going to fall within themselves. And you know what nobody can do while he's doing it? They can't say he's an anti-Semite, because he's cozied up to them so close. It's like he's hugging them, but he's squeezing them so hard, they're destroying themselves. And I think that's what's going on, and just absolutely brilliant.
Love it.
Right. So he's also pushed on Biden's doctor to come in and testify, Trump, to come in and testify about Biden's health. And he's like, he's not going to do it. And so he's pleading the fifth, and he's not going to come in. Because imagine if he did, and they're going to be like, well, why didn't you say like 4 years ago, however long, that he was incapable, he was incompetent. Why didn't you? So he would be held accountable. And then we would start looking at all the people that did the signings. Who did that? And so you would see a domino effect. And then you would see the COVID-19 push and all the doctors that are involved in that and the nurses that are involved with that. So you would see a massive domino of people that would be going to prison, all the people that are in Congress and Senate. You know, it's devastating. So it has to be done in its own time and in its own way. And I think Trump, you know, making the deals like we've all been talking about is the way that this works the best.
Makes good sense. Somebody put in here that precision timing is everything.
Yep.
Very true.
5D chess.
Well, gentlemen, it was great having you on. When we have some things that are emerging here, it's always fun to put together the emergency broadcast. Folks, we'll continue this series as things emerge, which we think is mission priority to get information out or perspectives out. We'll be circling back around. Don't know when that is. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks. We'll see. There's so much shit happening now. This is becoming so much fun. All the fun these ice holes we're having between 2024. Look how it turned. We're having fun every single day we wake up. It's like, where's the next target? Just open your bedroom door. It's right in front of you, everywhere, every day. So, guys, thanks for the great work you guys continue to do. You guys are at the top, the echelon of the people that are delivering great value here in the podcast world. I had a couple who couldn't make it tonight, but they're in that group too. Great work again, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us. Great time.
Ladies and gentlemen, for